What would you do for a Klondike bar? Notice it's dark chocolate because that is actually the best kind of chocolate. I know some people don't agree, but I really believe it's true. And maybe someday you will agree. But until then, let's go over some papers. Hopefully you finished 8.2 on complex sentences. If you did not, please finish it and then come back and correct it. Please notice there's single and double underlines on these things, right? So anyway, if you are done, let's go. And I also totally forgot to give you the corrections for the spelling sheet from last week. So I'll give you that at the end of this. By the way, a couple people didn't actually take the spelling test this past week. So if you are one of those people, please do that. Most of us are doing really well. So keep it up, people who are plugging away. But just a couple of us have been falling by the wayside, perhaps. So please catch up because, we got to make sure you guys are ready for high school next year. And I'm going to do what I can, but you got to do what you can, even if it means eating a Klondike bar. Okay, so anyway, this is 8.2 complex sentences. It says, underline the independent once, dependent twice. Dependent cannot stand on its own, right? So number 1, astronauts left the vehicle, independent. When the solar panel failed, dependent. Because if you had that by itself, it wouldn't make sense. You'd need more. You'd be like, what about when the solar panel failed, right? Number 2, the United States became serious about space exploration, independent. When the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, dependent. Number 3, whoa, what is going on? Number 3, if there is life on the moon is dependent. Humans have not succeeded in finding it, independent. Number 4, when a spacecraft is put in orbit, dependent. Many people share the credit, independent. Number 5 is one of those weird ones. And I've got a little asterisk because on the side it says, ooh, these are special ones. These are used as adjectives, therefore they're adjective clauses, right in the middle of the other clauses. So anyway, John Glenn became a senator. That's the independent clause. Who was the first American to orbit the Earth? That's an adjective clause telling me about John Glenn, so it's dependent. Number 6, the Apollo program had a lunar module, independent, that was capable of landing on the moon and returning to the main vehicle, dependent, tells me more about the lunar module. Number 7, the Sputnik 1 was the first artificial satellite, that's the independent, which was launched in 1957, is dependent, adjective clause. Number 8, when Neil Armstrong stepped onto the lunar surface, dependent, he was fulfilling a promise made by President Kennedy earlier in the decade, independent. Number 9, the United States launched the Space Shuttle Columbia, independent, which was the first reusable manned spacecraft, dependent. Number 10, the Challenger exploded in mid-air. I was actually in the Netherlands when that happened, and here I am, thousands of miles from home, and I just kept seeing it on the news. It was really devastating. Anyway, and then which had 7 astronauts on board is the dependent. Number 11, because this disaster was so devastating, dependent, all missions were temporarily stopped, independent. Then it says write 2 complex sentences that tell about space exploration, and you'll understand in another couple of days why I crossed off the which and made it that. It will be apparent in about 2 days, maybe 3 because we got spelling in between. So anyway, check yours. Make sure they're complex. I had after the International Space Station was built, NASA continued to work with other countries on the venture. And then once we have discovered the far reaches of our solar system, perhaps we can further explore our galaxy. Anyway, hopefully your sentences weren't the same as mine. That would make me say, And then the backside. In the compound complex sentences, underline the independent clause once and dependent twice. And there should be 2 independent, otherwise it wouldn't be compound complex, right? So number 1, if you have a solution, that's dependent. Let us know. We will try it. 2 that are independent. Number 2, because Trudy had studied previous chess matches, dependent, She was able to play brilliantly. She beat Sid soundly. 2, independent. Number 3, when we get to the park, that's dependent. Bill will put up the tent. Carl will start the fire. Both independent. Number 4, though the steak was not fully cooked, dependent. Judy cut it. Ned ate it. Those are both independent, and it kind of makes me hungry, I'm not going to lie. Number 5, Wendell had never gone to college, independent. He worked at the factory, independent, until he won a scholarship, dependent. Number 6, again, has an adjective clause stuck in there to just confuse us a little. The food was free, the people enjoyed it. And then who came modifies the people, tells me which people, so it's an adjective clause. Number 7, though it was brand new, dependent, the stereo would not play. It destroyed my tape? Seriously? How about CD? Seriously? I don't know. Anyway, it's an older sentence, obviously. Number 8, because Jenny broke her arm, that's dependent. She could not play in the concert. The orchestra sounded terrible. So those are both independent. But it's a terrible orchestra if the lack of one person makes them sound terrible. That's just very sad to me. Anyway, number 9, Sarah suggested the movie. Elliot and Michael agreed. Those are both independent. When they heard her choice, dependent. Number 10, Stephen went back to Florida, independent, where he opened a law firm, dependent. It was not a financial success, independent. Don't have but, though I accidentally had the conjunction. You don't want to have that. Number 11, the enraged inventor sued the company, independent. Excuse me. When he finally won his case, dependent. He was deeply in debt, independent. So again, you were supposed to find 2 examples, and it could have been a magazine, or you could write your own. I think I jotted that down on the paper. I hope I did. If I didn't, I'm sorry. I hope you didn't waste a lot of time looking for these, because frankly, they're harder to find than just to write. So I had children love to play, and when learning feels like play to them, they learn more naturally. After I got home from the store, I unloaded the groceries, and my dog greeted me at the door. All right, so hopefully that went well. And then there's the spelling thing. I'll just leave this here for a moment. This was the Q's and R's. I'm going to actually put a link to the correct test for this coming week so that there won't be any confusion as to which lesson it actually is. But lots of QUs and R's. You can even do a screenshot if you want to, or pause the video if you want to. Please make sure you have them spelled correctly in the process of having this. And just as an item of interest to you, the packet papers that we collected will basically be all 210s. On some of them and some of the subjects, I may spot check different, a few problems here or there and compile those into a percent grade, because the quality does need to be there too for you to succeed, but they will largely be 210s. So anyway, and then the back side. I hope you figured this out. They're just kind of fun, I think. A lot of people like these crisscross puzzles. Some people don't, but it was just something different. The one I'm covering up is Quadrilateral, AL. And then the others are here. And I will again just sit here for a moment and admire the wrapper from the Klondike bar. And wish it hadn't been the last one in the package. It is sad, but I think I'll get through it. All right, I wish you a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Can't seem to turn it off.